Hi everyone, it's Claire. Nice to have you back. So if you haven't watched the first video on what is ABA, a tutorial, please go back to the next section and watch that before coming back here because you'll need some of that info for this particular video. But if you've already watched it, then welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some of the acronyms and titles and jobs that you'll hear about in ABA. So we know that we use a lot of letters, whether it's acronyms or letters after someone's name, and we want to make sure that everyone has an understanding of what exactly that all means. So if you've watched the first video, then you're already a step ahead because you know that ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis and that EAB stands for Experimental Analysis of Behavior, and that those are two components of the field of behavior analysis. So some of the other acronyms that you're likely going to hear are BCBA. What does that mean? Well, a BCBA is a board certified behavior analyst. That means that they are a behavior analyst who has a master's degree in ABA or a related field like special education or psychology. They've completed at least 1,500 hours of supervised field work experience under the supervision and direction of a BCBA. And they have also sat for and passed a comprehensive credentialing exam. And so, really, to become a BCBA, there are a lot of steps. So, being a BCBA means that you can rest assured these people are experienced and credentialed in the field of applied behavior analysis. A BCABA, so big B, big C, little a, big B, big A, means board certified assistant behavior analyst. They also oftentimes refer to these people as associate behavior analysts. And that means that these are individuals who have at least a bachelor's degree in ABA or a related field. They have at least 800 hours of supervised fieldwork experience under the supervision of a BCBA. And they have also sat for a credentialing exam that's comprehensive that matches their level of training at the assistant or associate behavior analyst level. And even after being credentialed as a BCABA, they still have to retain being supervised by a BCBA. Then there are RBTs, Registered Behavior Technicians. And these individuals are often the ones that families come into contact with the most often. RBTs are the individuals that most likely come in home from an in-home agency or a clinic to provide behavioral therapy or ABA therapy. They are individuals that have at least a high school diploma. They have a 40-hour minimum training requirement in the field of ABA and ethics. And they also have to sit for a competency exam, submit their application to our licensing board, and then sit for a comprehensive credentialing exam that matches their level of experience as an RBT. And these individuals also must be supervised by a BCBA. Now, BCBAs often end up being licensed through the medical board as well. Many states require this as an additional credentialing process. And so that means that you'll often hear the term LBA, and all that means is that it's a licensed behavior analyst. So in order to be a licensed behavior analyst or LBA, you have to be a BCBA first, and then you submit all of your paperwork to the medical board to be licensed through them within each state. BCBAs are the ones that write your clinical plans. They're the ones that are going to write what we call the behavior intervention plans and make decisions regarding data that's been taken in terms of what behaviors are going to be socially significant enough to be chosen for reduction or increase, what kinds of strategies that we're going to be utilizing. BCABAs will also support in this role. They're overseen by a BCBA or an LBA, but they often do have a hand in writing the plans. And then RBTs do not write clinical plans, but they do carry them out under the supervision of a BCBA, and sometimes also additional supervision by a BCABA. So The next thing that we often come to is behavior analyst, behavior specialist. First and foremost, know that anyone can call themselves a behavior analyst or specialist. They should not ethically do so, but legally they can. Now, our licensing board requires that in order for us to say that we are practicing ABA, that we have to be board certified behavior analysts in order to do so. If we don't have a credential, we can't say that we're doing ABA because we're not credentialed and we don't have the experience to back that up. So at APTS, what that means is the only people that call themselves behavior analysts are in fact BCBAs. They have passed their licensure exam. They have all of the required experience and coursework and degree to back that up. Behavior specialists at APTS are individuals that are enrolled in coursework or doing their supervised fieldwork experience or are waiting to sit for their licensure exam, and they are all supervised by a BCBA. So at our Stafford campuses, our regional director of behavioral services, Mr. J, is a licensed and board certified behavior analyst. He is a BCBA LBA, and he oversees all four of us that are behavior specialists or behavior analysts between our Stafford campuses at APTS. So you have 3 behavior specialists and 1 behavior analyst at APTS. The behavior analyst is Ms. Jess. She is a board certified assistant behavior analyst or an associate behavior analyst. She's a BC ABA. And because she has that credential, she can maintain that title. The rest of us are called behavior specialists because we're still working on one of those requirements to be able to sit for and pass our licensure exam. Mr. Liu has one more course to go within his master's program. Mr. Whitney is enrolled in coursework. And myself, I'm done with my coursework and my supervised field work. I'm waiting for my exam date to come up when I can go sit. So that's the difference at APTS between a behavior analyst and a behavior specialist. But out there in the world, outside of APTS walls, know that anybody can call themselves a behavior analyst and a behavior specialist. So that does mean that not every place that says they have behavior analysts and behavior specialists has all of the training and experience and credentialing that's required to do ABA. They may be utilizing ABA-based principles to help build in supports, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a BCBA. Other acronyms that you may hear that are important to know in terms of this field. APA, the American Psychological Association. And they are the ones that put out what we call the DSM, or Diagnostic Statistic Manual. And that provides psychologists and psychiatrists and medical doctors with all of the required criteria that an individual must have or meet in order to be given a specific neurodevelopmental or mental health diagnosis. So that lists all of the criteria for autism or ADHD, psychological disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, and so on. So that also brings us to some of the other acronyms that you may hear, especially as they relate to special education here at APTS. ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. ADHD, and that is, of course, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And there are 2 types of ADHD. Type 1 is the inattentive type, so what used to be referred to as ADD. And then type 2, the hyperactivity part, which traditionally had been called ADHD. Now, all of it in the DSM-5, or that 5th edition of that diagnostic statistic manual, is referred to as ADHD, and then you just either have the inattentive or the hyperactivity type, so type 1 or type 2. ID and ED. These really relate to both neurodevelopmental disability categories within a student's eligibility for special education services. So ID, an intellectual disability, ED is an emotional disability. And then you have our governing board. So this one's less often referred to in its acronym, but I want you guys to at least know it in case you hear it, and so that you know that it exists. So anybody that practices ABA, a BCBA, BCABA, RBT, we all are governed by our own licensing, credentialing, and ethics board, and that's referred to as the BACB. I know, same letters, different order, but what it stands for is Behavior Analyst Certification Board. And they are the ones that set the requirements for how to get credentialed, the requirements in terms of continuing education for maintaining and retaining your credential once you have it, as well as our ethical code. So they're the ones that uphold that ethical code, that hold us responsible to upholding that and maintaining that, the ones that can suspend our license or revoke it if we're not following our ethics code. And all of the ones that set the requirements in terms of coursework and fieldwork experience for obtaining that credential. Other acronyms you're going to hear in the field of special education, some of them related to ABA, some of them not, but you may hear them in the in grounds of like an IEP meeting. So that's the first one, IEP, Individual Education Plan. So students that receive special education services, most of the time all get an IEP, Individual Education Plan, that outlines exactly what specific academic, behavioral, OT, PT, speech goals that they're going to be working on, specific skills and targets that we feel a student needs to be working on and progressing on, in order to have them be able to access their learning environment and the environment at whole in a more successful way. And it's going to outline exactly how we're going to do that. So what benchmarks need to be met, how we're going to teach to meet them where they are, and all of that. A BIP or a BIP is a behavior intervention plan, and that is often part of an IEP or the IEP process. Behavior intervention plans or BIPs are written by us, the behavior analysts and behavior specialists, and they outline all of the behavioral targets, so all of those different skills that we want to increase and all of those challenging behaviors that we want to decrease and replace with something else. And how we're going to do that, exactly what strategies are going to be used, what the prompting schedules are going to look like, what reinforcers are going to be utilized and when they're available. All of that's going to be put into a BIP. EI, that stands for early intervention. And most often this is referred to within ABA when we're talking about preschool age students. And then EIBI, early intensive behavioral intervention. And that also talks about most of the time preschool aged students, but sometimes also a little older than that. It's very similar to EI, but it does have some more components in regards to that intensive behavioral intervention component. Okay, so then EBI, I know, all of the same letters. EBI is evidence-based interventions. And then OT, occupational therapy, PT, physical therapy, SLP, speech language pathology. So that's your speech therapy. It typically is run by a speech language pathologist or a speech therapist. LRE, least restrictive environment. So this is something that we're all going to be talking about a lot. We're always looking for our student to be able to be in the least restrictive environment possible for them, to maintain safety and access to their learning environment. So that means that a student may be in their least restrictive environment by being here at APTS, which is a private day placement. So it's a little more restrictive than public school. But we're always going to be working towards what would it look like to help get a student back to public school, the absolute least restrictive environment. And then LEA is your local education agency. And typically this is a person that is a representative of your public school county that serves as a coordinator and go-between between the day school, so us at APTS, and then your public school. And so these are individuals that will attend your meeting. They'll often serve as designees for the meeting. They're going to help with communication between all of the IEP team, and keeping you up to date on goals and progress and all of those things as they relate to your students' team here between the private day and then their public school system. So those are sort of the acronyms and job titles and descriptions that you're going to need to know as you sort of find your way through APTS, special education, and the field of ABA as it applies to education. So I hope that that's cleared some things up. For other types of definitions and explanations for these, if you want to reference back, you can always check this video, but in this particular section on the Google Classroom, You're also going to find that there is a material listed that is an ABA quick reference guide cheat sheet, and that has all sorts of ABA acronyms and terms that you might want to know and what they stand for and exactly what that means. And we tried to make that as in plain language as we could and leave out as much of the ABA lingo as we could so that it made sense to anybody that read it. But also give you sort of a glimpse of what that terminology looks and sounds like so that you're not caught off guard and affronted by it the first time you may hear it. So feel free to download that and keep that in your back pocket as a tool in your tool belt if you need it. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next video.